The bacteria I chose was Neisseria meningitis, and I will discuss why it is important to us and why we should care, including meningitis. The bacteria's scientific name, Neisseria meningitidis, common name, Meningitis or meningitis. It is a gram-negative bacteria, and that is relevant because this bacteria is high resistance to antibiotics. The major disease that Neisseria meningitidis causes is meningitis, which is inflammation and an infection in the brain and spinal cord. This is a deadly disease, and it rapidly spreads, and it is important because it overwhelmingly affects children and people going through puberty and adolescence. Now, why do we care about the importance of this disease beyond it causing a disease? According to the CDC, there are 1.2 million cases worldwide. And of those 1.2 million cases, there are a reported 135,000 deaths. So if you do the math, the death rate comes out on a yearly basis it comes out to 15 to 20% death rate, which is really high. This is a highly contagious disease, and it is spread through close contact, sneezing, kissing, coughing. The CDC and the WHO have continued to declare meningitis an epidemic since it affects the whole world. And according to the CDC, over 70% of all cases are given to children under the age of 5. Some classifications, as you can see here, the domain is bacteria, the kingdom is eubacteria, the class is beta proteobacteria, the order is Neisserialis, the family is Neisseriaceae, and the nomenclature for how this was named, Anton Wissenbaum in 1887 discovered this bacteria, and he named it in honor of German physician Albert Neisseria, who is the man responsible for discovering the gonorrhea. Signs and symptoms included in meningitis include nausea, vomiting, confusion, or having an altered state, sensitivity to light, or a lack of energy. There are many different types of meningitis, like chronic, acute, parasitic, viral, bacteria, and fungal, but we are focusing on bacterial meningitis. Again, how it spreads, it can spread through food contamination and spread from person to person. Treatments include antibiotic medication and vaccines. And symptoms and signs for meningitis can last up from weeks to months after treatment. The journal peer review article I chose was Changing Epidemiology of Bacterial Meningitis Since Introduction of Conjugate Vaccines, 3 Decades of National Meningitis Surveillance in the Netherlands. So this study was a 3-decade study, and so what they did was they evaluated, after the introduction of the vaccine, they evaluated its effects on prevalence and cases, and what they found was that the mortality rate declined by more than 50% over the 30-year study, and the most significant decline was in bacterial meningitis. However, they did see an increase in Neisseria meningitis serogroup W, which is a variation, and as you can see, the variations A, B, C, W, X, the 6 variations, B, C, Y are the most common variations. So W what is not a common variation, but they noticed a small increase. So this popular article I chose titled Global, Regional, and National Burden of Meningitis, 1990 to 2016, a systematic analysis for the global burden of disease study of 2016, did a 25 plus year study on the effects of meningitis. They talked about how like the global burden of meningitis, as we discussed, over 1.2 million people yearly diagnosed, how it can be a life-threatening disease to our children, and how it affects the mortality rate and the public challenge that we face. Here are my references. Thank you.